Guest Jenny Curtis. How you doing, Jenny?
Hello, Sean. I'm doing all right. Frazzled as always, as
Yeah,
I'm sure you can tell.
yeah. Do we want to tell them what happened offline that we got the times
Oh,
mixed
yeah.
up, or yeah, there was a little time
Yeah.
mix up, and I told her we could take an extra hour, but she was a good and we're doing it. But where are you?
Yeah, I
You're in
can't leave.
LA. You're in
I'm in LA, which is why I thought we were on LA time because it's all about me. No,
right.
yeah, I'm in LA right now. I'm in my apartment in North Hollywood. You can see how much alcohol I have on my shelves
Hey, I
because I
have
figured that
alcohol on my shelf too. I could go full screen in a minute. And I have hard alcohol. You have wine. So, well, I don't know. It looks like some other
Oh, well,
stuff.
you can't see the top of the shelf. I can
Yeah.
like,
Okay. All right. There you go. All right. You beat me
yeah.
again. I was just telling Jenny that we kind of have the same podcast, but she has bigger guests. So that's what we're dealing with today. I think you had Kyle McLaughlin on there. You had the woman from Little Fires Everywhere. We're going to talk about that later. We're going to talk about some films you were in. We're going to talk about your podcast that you produce for podcasts and host to. It's absolutely insane. I thought I was busy and I do nothing compared to you. So I'm exhausted just talking about it. But I'm going to do some ads right now. It's going to take
Yeah.
me a minute. I'll go full screen. So relax, drink some water, and I will be right back.
Have fun with the ads.
Hey everybody, this is Restream. Restream is a product that takes your live and sends it to several places, just like I am right now. YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. It also has a live studio, which you can roll in clips and videos and make your own little Jimmy Kimmel internet show. Restream is a very cool product, and there's a link in the live that you're watching right now if you want to check it out. Also, we have, you can see a couple of logos on the screen here. We have Geek Vibes Network, which is a network that I'm part of. They have sports, um, they have Marvel stuff. I'm totally blanking on what they have, but they are a network that has 50,000 Twitter followers, and they do movie reviews and podcasts and YouTube shows. It's a very cool network, so check that out. And lastly, eCamm Live is an affiliate, and that's the software that I'm using to go live with you right now. I'm going to come back to Jenny, and you can also check out that link if you want to check out how we put the lower thirds and the logos. We're going to roll in some clips later. It's very cool. So, Jenny, you have to talk for a little bit
Yes.
because I'm exhausted. Tell me about how you got started in the film and TV industry, how you knew you wanted to be in this industry.
Oh, yeah, that's a very long answer. So how much on a rest? So I like to say that I knew when I was born because I have always been a performer. And then I did this whole thing where I didn't let myself be an actor for 18, 20 years of my life. Like
Mm-hmm.
I did, the young stuff and the school plays and all of that. But I always wanted to go to acting school and um, didn't have the guts to apply straight out of high school. So I went to a liberal arts school for a little while. And then I had a summer where I had an internship with an incredible woman named Patti LuPone, who is one of the biggest Broadway divas
Right.
that exists out there. And I got to intern as her assistant for 6 marvelous weeks while they rehearsed, put up, and performed Gypsy at the New York City Center. And
Very cool.
yeah, it was awesome. And then getting to do that basically, I guess, instilled in me that that was the only place I wanted to be because I would stand in the wings watching Patty, leave it all on the stage. And at the end of that summer, I kind of told my parents, I kind of wish I could do this. And so my mother said, are you going back to Pitzer, which is where I went to school at that point?
Right.
And I said, I didn't know that it was an option not to. And that was about it. I stopped going to Pitzer. I applied to a bunch of acting schools, ended up going to Cal Arts, which I loved school. I loved every second of school. Started over because Cal Arts doesn't admit transfers to their acting program. So I really could have finished my BFA or my bachelor's degree and then gone for an MFA in the same amount of time it took me to get a BFA. But
Okay.
here we are. uh, Then I graduated acting school and realized you can't step onto the streets and say I'm an actor and get hired. So I started working in production. And then for the past decade, I've been freelancing in all sorts of things. I've worked in digital, I've worked in animation, I've worked in TV, less so in TV, but the fun stuff. And wow, this is a really long-winded.
All right, well, I'll interrupt you and I'll just ask you, like, I know you're doing a lot of things and we're going to go over all of it, but this just came to me so I could give you a break. What would be ideal for you? Would you want to be running your own podcast company? Would you want to be a movie star, for lack of a better word? Or would you want to be a showrunner that made a TV show or executive produce movies? What would be the ideal?
This is the most cliche answer I could possibly say, but I want to do it all.
Okay. Okay.
I mean,
it's
acting
possible.
is my first love, and I would love to be an actor, but that's not necessarily where my focus lies, so that's not really the path I'm on. But writing, directing, producing, I've fallen in love with all of it. So as long as I'm in a creative industry, I'm happy.
Okay.
So that's...
And have you made shorts yourself or written stuff yourself?
I have written Let's talk about follow through for a second. I have written stuff. I have shot stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff has not come out.
Okay.
But I've done a lot of like bouncing from small production to small production and helping people create their projects. As an actor, there was a while where I was in a bunch of shorts that I then became kind of a producer on.
Okay.
And a lot of those you can't find anywhere, but they're pretty neat. I don't know. I think I kind of I look one step ahead of me and I take whatever step that is, but I'm not entirely sure what the game plan is in the long run, which is a bad answer.
Right. No, I totally get it because I always had a side project and it's so crazy. I'm doing this podcast now, and this morning I was researching a true crime podcast. There's something wrong with us, or you call us creatives, you call us insane people or whatever we are, but we have to keep making stuff. And I've written a couple screenplays that haven't gotten produced. I've made some shorts. I've done some original plays. And as long as I'm creating something, whether it comes to fruition or not, I'm excited. I love making stuff, and sometimes I just paint, So sometimes I'll be walking around and be like, I just got to make something. I got to write something. I got to write a poem. I got to paint something. I got to do something because I can't just watch TV or sit outside and look at the sun.
Well, it's funny that you say that. I'm probably jumping way ahead of whatever you've scheduled. But to circle back to the podcasting, do I need to finish that story? So really quick, getting on board with podcasting. CurtCo Media was a magazine company for 30 years, and it was run by my father, Bill Curtis. And then he, sold his magazines, and magazines aren't really the way of the future. So he was trying to figure out what's next, and he came up with podcasting. And all of my life, my siblings have worked for my father, and I was kind of the kid who was going into the arts, and I wasn't going to have anything to do with the family company.
Right.
Then he started essentially a podcast production company, and I realized that I have something of value. So I started helping with production because that's something I know about. And before long, it became a job rather than advice. And the reason I had to finish that story because I'm neurotic, but I just wanted to make sure that was out there. When you're talking about being a creative person and having to create, A Moment of Your Time is one of my podcasts. Right. And the reason I made that, it's 5-minute segments of people submitting things they've created. And I made it because for me, I have to be able to make something in order to, we call it releasing the valve. Otherwise you get so pent up, like you don't know what to do. So you have to kind of like make something to get your energy out. And when quarantine started, I didn't know what to do. I had to make something, but I realized that because I assume other creatives and other people felt the same way, having an outlet for everyone was exciting to me. So it's exciting to me to hear you say that you are like that, because to me, that's our people. That's the community we're building. And I want to encourage anybody who wants to create to just create, whether it's for something or not.
Right. It doesn't really matter if you reach the finish line. It's just making stuff. And like you said, it leads to other things and other pathways. So I had this thought this morning, and it was because I was kind of going through your bio and your IMDb, and I was like, you know what? I think actors make really good podcasters. And it's not because we can be fake or take on a character. It's because we don't have fear. For you to go out in front of 300 people or to do an interview on the street with a stranger, you have to be fearless, right? You have to, I mean, some people have stage fright backstage, but once they get on stage, they're fine. But like I've done stand-up comedy, which is insane and stupid, and I don't recommend it to anyone. But although I like watching it.
That's too scary.
Yeah. But there's something about it that you have to be kind of fearless. And sometimes you're interviewing huge directors, and sometimes, you know, you have to tell a story. And so you've got the improv thing going on in the theater. A lot of theater work is improv-ish in a way to kind of find your character in the script and stuff. So do you feel that way? I mean, do you feel like because you were an actor that it helps you with your podcast, that it helps you
Definitely.
with your interviews?
I wouldn't say it's fearless. And that's, for me, it's because I am an anxious person. I don't want to say I have a bunch of fear, but I would struggle to say I'm fearless. But
Okay.
I will say for why it helps that I'm an actor is because, while some people might say differently, when you're an actor, it's not about you. It's about your partner or who you're connecting to or whatever. Right. So your energy is going outward rather than looking at yourself. And I think podcasting is just another means of connecting to people. And so being an expert in connection, I think, is what helps me transition to podcasting.
Okay, that's a different way. I like that way of looking at it. Yeah, because there's definitely a connection. You're only as good as your other actor, for sure. So that's interesting. Okay, so we're going to backtrack a little bit here. We're going to go back to your acting, if that's okay, and we're going to show your demo reel.
Oh, God.
I don't know. Should we show the movie trailer first, then the demo? Because you're kind of giving it away, the Any Bullet Will Do scene.
Oh, yeah, you'll see a good scene. It's up to you. Whatever you.
Okay,
it's your show,
I'm just gonna wing it here and do your demo. So this is gonna go full screen with audio. They won't hear us, and then we'll talk about it after. If you want to explain the different scenes, I definitely want to hear what it was like to be a guest actor in Modern Family. That's very cool.
Oh God, yes.
This is Jenny's acting demo.
I've been going up that pass and into them there mountains since I was 6 years young. Tracked and shot my first grizzly when I was 10 and packed it out of there all by my lonesome. Hell, I could track a moose in my sleep even in the middle of a blizzard.
Can you shoot?
Does a dog bark?
Okay. I'll pay you $500.
On account of I'm a woman.
He's everywhere. He haunts me. They all do. They feel like memories. And then they come back to haunt me like a curse.
Why don't you tell me what happens in these dreams?
And then I watch them die. All over again. Every day. Every night. Again and again. We're closed.
I will take one job interview, please.
Excuse me? We're not really,
Outside it says that you're hiring, and I'm for hire. That came out really wrong.
Are you even old enough to have a job?
let alone drink.
I turned 21 3 days ago.
This is a prank, right? Bill, it's not funny. Come take your Powder Puff Tinkerbell away so I can get back to work.
Who's Bill? Oh, does he own this place? I should probably meet him too.
Okay, yeah. This isn't gonna work. What about an alternative food source?
If there was, we wouldn't be here.
What about oddities?
We call them scabs. They tend to stay closer to the coastline.
I was wrong. You both know what to do. Run.
It was a meeting, but a romantic one.
How professional.
No, it was a date. It was definitely a date.
How unprofessional?
What? No, it was very professional. It was a meeting. A meeting date.
That redhead's no fun.
Very cool. I have a million questions. Oh my God. I know it's so horrible when people like watch your demo and you're present. Like I just want to send it to someone. But you're a really good actress. You have this thing where you react. There's some sort of, I don't know how to explain it, but not a lot of actors do it. And you're actually listening and you're reacting in the time. And it's sometimes you don't get help from the other actor, but you're still reacting. But what was the stuff with the war paint? What was that? Was that still the bullet movie short, or something else? Okay.
No. Oh, no. That was a short, one that we produced and it's edited and it never went out anywhere. So I think it's sitting in someone's hard drive.
Oh.
And hopefully one day it'll see the light of day. But it was called Who We Are Now. And we shot it in, I think, Boron? Somewhere out in the desert in an abandoned neighborhood. It was about obviously like the apocalypse, and there were cannibals and lots of running and yelling and fighting. It was lots of fun.
And you were just casting it? You didn't write it or direct it or anything?
I did not write it or direct it, but it was kind of with a group of people that I had been working with. So it wasn't one of the projects. I didn't have to audition. It was just kind of a project we made, and then we went out and did the thing. And then no one ever saw it.
Okay, so let's talk. We're going to go to Any Bullet in a second, but Any Bullet looks like, high-end cameras and like a real movie and a real budget. Can you say what the budget was, or?
I can't, only because it changed so many times. I don't actually have the final number. It was one of those where it was supposed to start out really low budget. It was going to be super ultra low budget. And every step of the way, the budget increased and we kept finding more money. And by the end of it, I don't have the number of what was spent on it. But it was definitely less than it looks like. So I will say, like, it was a labor of love for a lot of people. And, we shot in Montana, and that'll make anything look like a multi-million-dollar movie.
Right.
It's just, yeah.
Okay, I totally lost my train of thought there. But the other one, Postpartum, what was that about?
Postpartum was about a bunch of girls in an insane asylum. I like to think of it as my Girl Interrupted moment.
Okay.
Because growing up playing Lisa in Girl Interrupted was the dream. Who doesn't want to be Angelina Jolie?
Yeah. So
that was very much my Angelina Jolie moment, where we went out and shot a short. I think it took us 3 days. We shot in an abandoned veterinary clinic, I think. It was really creepy. Huge cast of women. A really fun project to do. But yeah, I got to be super crazy. It's my favorite thing.
Okay. Really? You like the crazy parts. Okay.
I like the crazy parts.
Okay. And Modern Family, what was that like to guest on there in the jury?
That was one of the best half days of my life, because it was my first time on a real TV set, and it was season 6, so they really had their engines oiled, whatever the phrase is. Mm-hmm. But I can't swear on this, right?
No. When we do the podcast, we can cuss like crazy, but during the day on Facebook and YouTube, we cannot. And we can't use copyrighted music. Those are the only 2 rules. Everything else goes.
Good to know. Well, they had their ish together, I'll say. And it was just a well-oiled machine of super happy, super friendly people because they're on a massive hit show. Why wouldn't they be happy and friendly? But I can't say enough good things about that. Everyone was so fun and so kind and so clear on what they wanted. And I got to sit there. And I mean, I had one line, and Jesse Tyler Ferguson, walked in, shook my hand, greeted everybody surrounding me. It was just I think that was my first professional role in film and TV. And it was just the best possible experience.
Very cool.
I could have had. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want to leave.
Yeah, you wanted to come back tomorrow. Yeah, no, I interviewed the showrunner, Greg Schaefer, who did this Netflix show, Bruise Brothers, and he worked on The League. And he said that when he worked on that 70s show, it was a well-oiled machine, happy sets, very similar, and everybody was very gracious, and they just nailed it, And this other director was talking about Luke Perry, how he always knew exactly where to go in the light and just always be there. But the graciousness, this guy from TCM was talking about Sally Field and how they're like, okay, Sally, we're going to put you in makeup. And she was like, I got my makeup on. I'm ready. And she drove up in her Prius and parked it herself. And she was no nonsense. She wanted to sit with everybody and eat dinner. None of this, like, the star eats alone.
Yeah,
and
be a
stuff.
part of the team.
Yeah. So it's just so fun when you hear, and I think that's when people get really huge, is when they're just open and gracious.
Genuinely good.
Yeah. Good people.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's
I love
fun.
it.
Okay, so we want to talk about the podcast. We're just gonna quickly go to this trailer. Is there anything you want to say about Any Bullet before we see you shooting in the snow?
It's a Western. We shot in Montana. Okay. It's in the snow. It was friggin' cold.
Was it?
There was a day that it was -5 degrees and we were on top of a mountain. So it was an experience.
But you had lots of furs on. You had like a fur hat or something.
Lots of furs on.
Very different for a woman from LA. Yeah, very different. Okay, it's just kind of fun. It's a good. It's like a real movie. So let's just watch it. This is the trailer for Any Bullet Will Do.
Something tells me that most of what is told about you is truth. During the war, one brother fought to defend freedom and the other slavery.
War and such does funny things to a man.
Whole shift of Panic slaughtered in the night and a day's load of gold stolen.
Man outside's got a mark. A mark they want Everett ransom would brand on his men that served under his regiment during the war.
I'll give you $5,000 to kill them all.
I need to hire someone to take me up over the Beartooth. Could be a day, week. I cannot promise a day return.
Hunting a man is not the same as hunting an animal. I will not be the man to take you, mister.
I'll take you then.
It's for my brother.
Your brother.
Well. Wake up the rest of the boys. We got murdering to do. You need to get yourself home, Rose. It's too dangerous.
2 will always be better than 1.
The shooting starts. You best make yourself small.
Didn't have to be like this, brother. We're supposed to stick together. Please, have mercy.
Very cool. That's like a real movie, Jenny. I mean, it's got like sound design and graphics and guns and extras, and I felt like I was watching Glory there for a minute with all the people.
It's funny. It came out the same year as Revenant, or we shot it the same year Revenant came out. So like, it was really funny because we had just wrapped our first half of shooting when Revenant came out, and we watched Revenant, and it is very similar to some of the stunts we pulled off in the story.
It is, okay.
Western in the snow. So
that was a tough one to get through, man. I mean, I love Leonardo DiCaprio. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was pretty awful.
Oh,
I mean,
what?
Oh my
God.
I
loved it.
Did you really? Well, you loved Brad Pitt on the roof with his shirt off.
I really enjoyed it because it was not something. Actually, this is terrible. I shouldn't say it. It wasn't something that made me think, and it was like exactly what I needed for a night out at the movies was just to turn my brain off and
that
some
story's
stuff
just
go.
been done so many times before, and I loved having the two of them together, Pitt and DiCaprio. But until the fight scene with Pitt at the end, it wasn't very Tarantino-ish, and I thought a lot of crazy stuff was going to happen at that cult place that was like Manson's compound or something. But nothing happened. It was like he went in the room and the lady was watching TV, and I was like, see ya, bye. Yeah, it was very strange. Usually some weird Pulp Fiction stuff happens in the middle of those movies, and it didn't. Not that it has to be weird, but anyway.
Yeah, he did hold it off till the end.
And the music, all right, so tell me about the music. The music was not great in that movie, was it?
Wait, you're talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Yeah,
or are you talking about that? Yeah. I honestly don't remember.
Yeah,
so
it's not
probably
anything
not.
that, like, I remember watching several of his films, like, wow, what is this music? This is amazing. And listening to the soundtrack, and even the Kill Bills a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, I probably hold him to a higher standard. But
yeah. If I ever see him, I'll let him know that you think that.
Yeah,
so,
don't tell him, because I like him too much. I revere him too much. Okay, so this is podcast. Let's talk about podcasts. I love talking about podcasting. I actually had a couple weeks where I just interviewed podcasters because I wanted to pick their brains and see, you know, their equipment, how they got started, and how they promote and all this fun stuff. So let's talk about your podcast. Do you want to talk about Hollywood Unscripted? And
yeah.
Okay. Hold on one second. So I have your photos that promote it. Because are you going to say that you're going to be hosting it, or?
Yeah, so I guess this is like an unofficial announcement since we haven't made the official announcement. But yes, I am the host. And so we'll be starting season 2 technically in October. And we're going to update the format a little bit and, you know, change out some music and some artwork and all of that stuff. But it is... Hollywood Unscripted is now hosted by Jenny Curtis. So
very cool. Congratulations. That's very cool. I'm so excited that there's a podcast that's similar to mine, and it's much better, and it's going to be out there.
I would say that all of us just make the space a better place to be in for everybody.
Yes, that's true. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. But I think all the photos are great. Who took these photos? Let's put up one. This is my favorite one. I like the mic and the leather jacket. That's a great picture.
These are by, talk about a family business. These are by a photographer named Chelsea Curtis.
Are you serious? This is your sister? She's a professional photographer.
She is. Yeah, she's a badass.
I mean, that's a beautiful photo. Can you see which one it is? There's a delay, but it's the one with the lights behind you and the
I can see them in the reflection of your glasses.
Oh my God, isn't that hilarious? Okay. You're not going to be able to see the photo, but just look in my glasses, and you'll be able to see which one it is.
Yeah, this was a really fun shoot. I have to say, as an actor, photo shoots make me uncomfortable, but I had a really incredible group of people who helped me feel good about myself, and we took some promo shots, and now hopefully everyone will listen to our podcast. Photos.
Yes, I think just because of the photos.
Yes.
They'll be listening. But why? Yeah, I guess I hate photos too. I'm not a big, you know.
Well, it's weird because we're not models. We're meant to be like having a camera on acting is completely different because I can forget it's there and I don't have to really engage with it. I'm engaging with something else. And as a photo, you're like, okay, I'm going to twist my body in 9 directions so that this looks interesting for the camera.
Right.
And it's a different experience.
And was it by
Did you like
chance
this?
that you got these photos, or did your sister tell you what to do or what angle?
Oh, she told me. Yeah, no, I had people just. I am not a model. They had to coach me through it for sure.
Okay, so you could be in movies. You do not have a face for radio. Like you could be. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I could. I have a face for radio. So I'm totally fine with being on the podcast, but it's cool that you want to do these podcasts. So tell me about all of them. You said you had this one project that you loved doing because you had to create, but just tell me about everything, and I'll throw in some 2 cents here and there.
Yeah. Well, let's start with Hollywood Unscripted since that's where we were. Hollywood Unscripted, so like you said, interviews with people in the industry, and it has. I don't think of it as like a voice for radio because it's not about me. I just have the opportunity to sit down with people who are doing the things that I want to do and pick their brain, and it is just amazing. And for the first season, we had a different host, and he would be talking to people, and I was the producer, and I would be sitting in the corner, usually hide the fact that I was crying at everything they were saying because it's just so exciting to hear people's personal stories about an industry that is the good side of the industry that is so passionate and caring and creative. And I think that getting to have a show that we just get to explore that is the most exciting thing. So I don't know. I love it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cool because I never run out of questions, and I'm always like, okay, I'm only going to take an hour of your time. We should go, because I'm so interested in what these people are doing. Even yesterday, I had this stylist, Ann Madden, who lives in Malibu, and I thought she might know Mike, but she doesn't. Mike Thomas, the director that we both know, producer, but she was so fascinating because she worked with Owen Wilson on this Campari ad that they shot in Mexico City, and I want to go to Mexico City. And she was like, oh, you have to see my friend Herme when you go to Mexico City. It's amazing. And they have this neighborhood, Roma. And then she was talking about how Owen was so gracious and nice to everyone. And then she did these Lamborghini ads and these ads for this Japan block in Japan. It was just fascinating. And she was sitting on this golf course in Palm Desert, which is right next to Palm Springs. And she had on like these old movie star glasses. Anybody could check it out. It was yesterday. And I just couldn't. She grew up in Europe and Luxembourg and Brussels and Belgium. And she had these stories, and it was just fascinating. So I just love it. And when people do any kind of acting or directing or writing, I'm right there and in it. It's the people who do stuff that I've never done, like stylist or art director, and I'm kind of figuring it out, but I'm kind of learning too at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's about being curious, right? I think originally I was kind of nervous to talk to people who I knew were way outside of my realm of understanding things. And then I had to realize, like, no, it's okay if the world, hears me not knowing what I'm talking about, because it's not possible to know everything.
Right.
And it's been, if you're just curious about another person and getting the opportunity to, I guess not look in their face since I'm looking at a screen right now, but engage with them about what they love most. And if that's costume design, and I know nothing about costume design, it's still an amazing conversation because it's more about the passion underneath than the task itself.
Right. And there was it totally makes sense. And there was this producer I worked with for 10 years. I was a video editor by trade. And we were in an edit room for 10 years together. And I didn't know anything really. I mean, I knew he had a wife and 2 kids and a dog, but I didn't really know the story. And taking an hour with someone, sitting down for an hour with someone and really finding out about their career from beginning to end and the advice that they have, you just hear these stories and you're just like, dude, I had no idea you did all this stuff. You traveled the world and you worked at all these companies and you worked on these movies. And so it's just fascinating. I don't know, there's something about the conversations that are awesome.
Yeah. Well, and they're unexpected too, of like, I think a lot of like when you start an interview show, it's like, okay, let me browse their IMDb and I can ask them these bullet points and that's what I get. And that's what we all do.
Right.
But it paints a different story than the person is. And getting into an interview and realizing that is the most exciting thing. Like I did an interview with Bruce Miller, who is the showrunner for Handmaid's Tale. And he has an extensive resume. And so I, started asking him, I was like, but it didn't stay very long at any of these shows. Like, what was that about? Were you trying to find your place? And he was like, no, I just got fired a lot. And, and suddenly it became a real conversation about like what the struggle is in finding what's actually right for you. Because once he landed like Handmaid's Tale, which he had said he had been preparing for 30 years of his life because he loved the book so much, like it talking to someone finds something that you could not learn from any website or any article. You have to look in their eyes and have a conversation.
And I feel like podcasting does it better, Jenny, because like when you're on Conan and Jimmy Kimmel, they're like, okay, we're going to talk about this, tell a story about how your dog, peed in the restaurant, and then we're going to go to your clip. And it's very structured, and there's, don't talk about my ex-wife or don't talk about my ex-boy.
Yeah.
And this is just, we're meandering. We're just going places depending on what you say. I'm going to go somewhere else. And it's organic.
Yeah.
So
we do cool stuff.
So what was I going to say? Tell me about the other stuff, the other podcasts. But everybody check out Hollywood Unscripted on when? On CurtCo Media?
It comes out every Monday. It's on all of the platforms. Pick your favorites on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Pandora, Google Play.
Right.
Podbean.
But when are you relaunching? When is that?
Oh, we're still going. Oh, so that's what's not questionable about it, but like why it's kind of a funny relaunch. We're still going. I have an episode coming out on the 14th.
Okay.
We're skipping one for Labor Day, but like while we've been in this transition period between our previous host and myself, we've done a series of specials, and the specials have quickly become weekly. So it's basically like we're back in the show.
Okay.
But the relaunch is really kind of introducing a slightly different format. The show used to be much more. I'm trying to figure out how to say this because it's still my show. So I love the show no matter what, but it was much
more structured.
Stricter. It was more calm. I'm going to be more energetic and weird and myself.
Right.
And so we're going to make the show a little bit more energetic and weird and myself. There will probably be, some fun segments and different music and different artwork. And so it's just a little bit of a different feel from our previous guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me about the other podcasts.
So the other podcasts, if I want to dip back into a moment of your time, as I already said, those are bite-sized segments that they're contributed by people all over the world. Every day, Monday through Friday, is a new episode. An entire episode is just that person's creative expreson piece.
What's the name of this podcast? Sorry?
A Moment of Your Time.
Oh, okay.
And it is on every platform. We've had people who contribute songs and stories, and we had a sketch once. We have personal statements, letters written to other people, letters written to themselves. So it's really a space of like, if someone hands you 5 minutes and says, do what you need with this, what would you do? And the only real stipulation we have is the time frame needs to be between 1 and 5-ish minutes. We're pretty lax on the 5. It goes up to about 7. And we want there to be an underlying theme of solidarity or hope. And that is a very loose guideline,
Right.
because pretty much anything can be about that if you
If
view
you
it through
want
that
to, right,
lens.
right.
Yeah. So it's been a really interesting show because I've connected with people who I have no reason to connect with someone in Australia, but I have from this piece, and all over the world people have contributed, and it's been a really just heartwarming experience for me because it makes me not feel very alone, but also I've heard a lot that people feel supported by being able to have their voice heard. And so it's a really cool experience. And I highly recommend everybody submit a piece, not only listen.
Right.
And if you want to submit, you can email momentofyourtimepodcast@gmail.com and we can chat.
Yes. Very cool. I like that idea. I want to listen to that. I'm just going full screen to you because I want to move my monitor back a little bit. I think I'm on top of it. There we go. So the other two podcasts, and that one you produce and host also?
That one I just produced. It doesn't have a host because it's not about me. It's about
it's about the submissions that people.
Yeah, my voice is only on it if we get a submission from someone who doesn't want to read their own piece, if they're uncomfortable with their voice. I've had a few people say, here's my piece, would you read it for me? And in that case, like, yeah, I want your work out there and I'm happy to read for you. So that's that show.
Right.
Our improv show, which I was telling you about before, we have a show called When Last I Left, and that is just chaos in a jar, and it is we basically created a long form format of storytelling. The premise was that one of my co-hosts, Chris, always does some kind of social faux pas, and then the four of us hosts, Chris Porter, Cooley E. Whitman, Mickey Shilowa, and myself, basically tell the story of what happened to us after Chris creates this faux pas. The, I guess, roadblocks that we have to jump are listener-submitted midpoints to the story and end points to the story.
Oh,
so we open those while we're telling the story. We basically... Chris says his social faux pas. We get to open the midpoint of the story envelope and see what we're going to kind of lead to. Once we get to the midpoint, then we get to open the endpoint envelope, see what we're going to lead to. All of this is while basically not playing a drinking game, but like drinking game rules where once... Have you... Well, I won't ask you if you play drinking games, but you know when like you're playing something and there's some silly rule that you shouldn't break, like you can't say blue. And if you say blue, you have to drink.
Right.
So we basically applied that kind of thing to this storytelling where every week there was a new rule, like you cannot say a number or you have to whatever.
Right.
And if you break the rule, you have to introduce a goat into the story. So our mascot for When Last I Left is Yoinky the goat. Okay. And we would have hundreds of goats in these stories. Basically, all of this is a long-winded way of saying it is a just chaotic end-of-the-world mess every week, and it is a lot of fun. But we did put kind of a pause on it while we're in quarantine because it was
it's hard to do that. Well, you could do it. You could do it. But let me ask you this question because I interview a bunch of comedians. They said there's a tight energy. And I was like, what are you guys talking about, tight energy? And it's that when you go to a comedy club and there's 200 seats, if you take 50 people and spread them out throughout the 200 seats, it's less of an energy than if the place is packed and everybody's arm to arm, which I've definitely seen when I've performed for theater. A packed house has a lot more energy than two people. So it's kind of hard. Like you can do, and I've heard that about these virtual comedy shows that they're doing. Like, yeah, you can put in canned laughter. Yeah, you can do it on Zoom, but it's not the same.
Not the same. Yeah.
You don't have the energy of being there.
Yeah. Well, and that's how I feel about, not to segue completely, but like Dodgers or all of baseball. If you're watching baseball on TV and they have piped in this fake crowd sounds, it's so weird.
It's not working for me. NBA, I worked for the NBA for years, and had to watch it just because it made my job easier, and baseball, MLB. But now I don't watch it so much because I'm not working there anymore. But even trying to watch, I like playoffs, I like championships, I like Olympics where it's do or die. And I'm just like, what? And even the NBA has these like video screens now with like video people, and I'm like, oh, that's just all. It's like a pickup game. It has no energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's not working.
So that's why I don't do stand-up comedy online or anywhere. But yeah, so When Last I Left is on pause because of that. We are eventually going to introduce a spin-off of When Last I Left, because for a while we were doing what we were calling quarantine games, and they were games that we could play over Zoom. But as you said, I'm very busy, and so we kind of pushed off the launch of a new improv show for a little bit, and that hopefully will happen later this fall when I can catch my breath. And yeah.
And what is
I like?
Sorry, what is the last podcast?
The last podcast is a podcast called Solar. It is not currently it's not currently out. It's in production, and it is a narrative podcast that is just the coolest thing. It's a really great story. It's set in space, and I don't know how much I can say about it, so I won't say too much, but I can say that Chris Porter, who is one of my hosts on When Last I Left, wrote it, and he is also the writer of, or one of the members of my immersive company, which I think I had mentioned to you off of this call before, but if I didn't, I'm sorry. I'm a member of an immersive theater company, and so we basically have a podcast that's written from this person who it's all poetry and deep and dark and action filled, and it's theater for your ears, and I'm so excited to get it out there.
That's very cool, because I interviewed your friends Shane and Bill from Carcerum, which is like an audio play. So would you say it's kind of like they're calling it an audio series. Is it kind of like a narrative audio series, this Solar?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So it's a story, and I'm kind of working on an idea for a true crime podcast right now, and that's the same thing. It's a story. It's like doing a feature for TV where you have to add music and you're having to cut in different interviews and news clips, and it's like putting together a story. So
yeah, it's like a TV series. You're just not watching it.
Yeah. Exactly. But I have to ask you about your theater company, because this is so weird that we're doing similar things. I had a theater company in San Francisco called Arena Interplay, and the reason why we called it that is because I think we're using different words, but yours is immersive. Mine was interactive in the sense that we had the audience we were surrounding the audience and going through the audience, so the audience was interacting with us. They weren't sitting off to one side with the fourth wall. Is that what you're saying? Is that your audience is it's like that, but on crack, is what I'll say. Really? So okay. The best way I can explain it is like you, as an audience member in immersive theater, you are part of the show. You are not there to watch. Okay. So the best example I can give is my all-time favorite piece of art I've ever had the gift of being a part of was a show that I did with my company, Speakeasy Society, and it was called The Johnny. It was based on Dalton Trumbo's Johnny Got His Gun, which is a World War I book. If you've never read it, it's absolutely horrifying, but also I recommend it because it's a real work of art. And the entire book takes place in the mind of a soldier who has been hit by a bomb. So he is in a hospital somewhere where he doesn't know where he is. He doesn't speak the language, but also he can't hear, he can't see, he can't feel. His entire body, like everything's been blown off. Right. He is just consciousness. And so we took that and we put it up as a show, and we placed it in a mausoleum. So the audience was the character of Johnny, and the entire show was Johnny's memories. And so if you're Johnny, the entire show is you. Like, you have to engage. So we're, running from floor to floor and room to room and creating these scenes for you and talking directly to you. And you have
the ability to affect the story, because when I ask you a question and you answer, I have to react to whatever it is you're saying, and hopefully you're not going to be rude and try and throw things off. But it's it's sitting and watching and maybe responding to something. The audience really is the story, and so yeah, it's that on crack is really.
That is that on crack. Yeah, that's amazing, because that's kind of my dream, and what I found out when I was doing theater is that people, and I'm curious to see what happened during your shows. People were reluctant to be immersive and inside the space. There was this very famous theater company in Spain called like Pino de las Moas or something, and they had it was like they were in a gymnasium, but they were at war, and they put the audience in the middle of the gymnasium, and bombs were overhead, and people were falling from the sky from helicopters, and they had to get out of the way. People were shooting, and you know, you have to have all these warnings, like you can have a heart attack if you come in here because of the lights and the gunshots and all this. But everything was figurative. It wasn't a real gun. It was like someone holding a gun. Mm-hmm. But still, do you have that situation where people are they reluctant in some way, or was everybody ready to be part of it?
I mean, at least for the immersive community who have come to our shows, I mean, people know what they're in for, but we also you make it very clear up front. You are going to be touched. You are going to be spoken to. Like, please, you find creative ways of giving the audience the information of like, please do what's asked of you so that you don't ruin the show, and please don't, whatever. But usually audience members are there to play. What I think is really interesting, though, and what it's been for me, is such a interrogation of human experience. I don't really know how to explain it other than it's really interesting to watch how someone takes in what you're doing. And so when I'm having a conversation as a character with you, you kind of have to have a conversation back. And it's always kind of weird if someone's not really into it, or you feel like they don't want to be there. But I remember really clearly there was, I had a monologue at the end that was just this rip my soul out and throw it out the window kind of monologue. And there was a woman who was literally facing the other way from me, like completely turned around back to me. And it was like, that's really bizarre. Like, I mean, come on. I'm like leaving it all out here for you, and you won't even look at me. And then at one point she shifted, and I could see that she was crying. And it made me realize, like, I have no idea what's going on in someone else's head. Like, I don't know how someone takes in art, and the fact that I'm watching you watch me or not watch me doesn't mean I know how you are experiencing the work. And that was a huge lesson for me to learn through immersive, which I love. And I can't wait to get back to.
It's so cool. I would love to see it. Do you ever record it on video or anything like that?
We have some video like clips, but it's really hard to record it. It's not the same, and it's not at least for like a show like that. There were 30 different experiences someone could have if they come in, because there's so much going on and so many tracks that you could have been put on, and it's kind of impossible to give that experience to a camera.
No, I get it. I totally get it. It sounds very cool, though, and I love that you call it art. Like I saw an interview the other day where someone was talking about films and how it was art, and that some people look at art differently. Like I don't know if you have heard this, but Christopher Nolan's new movie Tenet is supposedly so loud, the sound effects and the music is so loud that you can't hear the dialogue. And people are just totally freaking out because they're like, I can't understand what they're saying. And it's a very complicated plot. There's time travel, and things are moving forward and reverse, and cars are running in reverse. So people are just completely confused. But the idea is like, oh, well, maybe you'll go back 7 times to understand what's happening. And which is kind of ridiculous. But I know you have stuff to do. You're the busiest woman in LA. But can we wrap it up with advice that you would have for people who want to be a podcaster, producer, or actress? Whatever you want to say.
Yes. Advice. I want to figure out how to say this, but I think my main advice would be to do what you love, but not only that, like, you have to love what you do in order to do this. And sometimes I think that's a choice. So like for me as an actor, I could just as easily look at myself podcasting and be like, this wasn't the path I wanted to take. What am I doing here? And suddenly make it unhappy for myself. And what is the point if we're anything or do anything if we're not enjoying it? So I think it's not only follow the path and make sure you are doing what you love, but once you land somewhere, if it's unexpected, choose to love what you do, because if you can't make yourself love it, there's really no point. Really don't get into this if you're not going to love what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. And it's funny because it doesn't seem like it's a lot of work, but it is. But I'm also a workaholic. I don't know if you could pick that up.
Yeah, no, I didn't pick that up at all. But no, I had the conversation with Mike Thomas, who we both know, about how when you love what you do, it's kind of like robbing the bank, because you would stay there all night, or you would come in early because you can't wait to get back to it. I mean, you have to go home to your loved ones or whatever, and you have to go feed the dog and sleep a little bit, even if it's a few hours, but you just can't wait to get back. Or you're getting up at 5 a.m. and writing notes because you're so excited about what you're doing. And that's the best thing in life. If you can do that, then you've got it all figured out.
Yeah. And that's the way to go. Love it. Love what you do.
Yeah, love what you do. All right, Jenny, you have things to do. This has been great. Thank you so much for doing this. And I am going to listen to a bunch of your podcasts, and I will.
Please do.
I definitely, if I'm ever out in LA, I'm going to come see that immersive theater, because you do a lot of cool stuff, but that sounds really, really cool.
It's really cool. So we got to get rid of coronavirus so we can go back in and touch people's faces again.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Get back to the theater. Oh my God. There's so many things that aren't happening right now, like comedy and theater. Films are happening a little bit, but oh my God, we just need to fix this thing and get back to making stuff. All right. Thank you so much. You have a great day. This was awesome and fun, and we'll talk soon. Okay.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye.
Jenny. Bye.